Sometimes when a student is too conditioned to find something new, I always ask him a question. Can you go against your habits? Can you go against your own aesthetics? What I mean by that is that definitely every singer who sings on stage or even at home, he has to like his voice. He has to like the sensation he's singing with. But this is not a guarantee for him to have a beautiful voice. It's not a guarantee for the public to appreciate his voice as beautiful. So, of course, in this case, he might be very cocky about his voice, a great confidence, but objectively, you would feel like there is no chance for him to have a great career. So, it's important to understand what is the most important quality in students' talent. And I think that the most important quality, not only in vocals, but I think in any discipline, is ability of student to listen carefully without judgment, almost meditating on what teacher is saying. Not judging it, not saying, oh, this is incorrect, or this is great, but just watching him, what he's doing, and observing what he's showing. And then, of course, the second quality is the ability to mimic what the teacher has shown. This is, I don't find necessarily is more physical talent. The ability to mimic is more like a mental talent. Let's say if you can go into the skin of somebody else, if you can copy a bat sound, it's also a good thing. You can copy Caruso's sound, or you can copy somebody else's sound that you don't like. This is the ability to copy. Of course, the quality of the mimicking, or the quality of to be just a perfect mimic, will not necessarily make him a great singer. This is one of those qualities. Like, for example, some people think, oh, if you have a perfect pitch, you're going to be a Mozart. This is not true. Most of the perfect pitch musicians, so-called, they end up being piano tuners. The perfect pitch is absolutely not a guarantee for you to be inventive, an interesting, a great musician. It's just one of those things that can help you or actually be your enemy, depends. If you're mimicking well, that's a good quality, but you can be easily lost because every time you listen to a different singer, you mimic him. And your idea to discover your own potential, meaning that, of course, through mimicking, you can find what's best for you. That is very important. Through mimicking, you find what's best for you. It means, it's like an idea. Okay, somebody else said this, and you find it very interesting. But you have to digest this. Don't just take it. Go and start to understand this idea. And only when you go through your own life and observation and thinking, then you can relate to this idea in much more deeper way than just knowing it's a great idea. It's the same thing with vocals. If your teacher is suggesting this and this, and he shows you, even in the case when you find it's beautiful, when you hear that what teacher is doing is so beautiful, you still don't have to mimic your teacher 100%, because if you mimic him 100%, that means that you're in some way detached from the rest of you. There will be no connection between you, outer you, and inner you. And this is the most important thing in success. When you're one personality, you're not a split personality, especially when you're singing. So in that sense, you have to understand that mimicking process is very important, but it can be also a negative one. Because, again, as I said, those who mimic well, they sometimes don't have their own ideas. They're only able to mimic someone. In true talent, mimicking is a very good tool to learn, but if you only possess this quality, you won't be able to discover your true voice. And what, in this case, by your true voice, I don't necessarily mean physical vocals. In this particular case, I mean the whole complex of elements in you that will make your voice great. And this is not only physical possibilities. Physicality of your voice, mentality of your voice have to come close. Even not close, they have to come to one. And then, you see, there will be no another Caruso or no another Corelli. I mean, don't take it as a negative thing. It's a fact of the life. So look, there will be no other Caruso. And then you say, oh, then I don't want to sing because I want to be equal to Caruso. Well, this is the wrong idea in its essence. You can only be truly beautiful if you are yourself, nobody else. But this way to be yourself is not that simple, because we are already contaminated with ideas that actually detach us from ourselves. So what we are today, let me boldly say, are not us. It's the whole civilization with its prejudices, with pluses and minuses, all implanted in us. And if we talk about cultures, the cultures are implanted in us. And if we talk about personalities, we know that all the personalities have some significance in the history. They were always very original. Where this originality comes from? The originality comes from, again, even the way to this originality is always unique. Sometimes it happens that one person becomes like another person's avatar. If you like this particular musician, this particular singer, and I mean, you find him a god of singing, and then your voice kind of similar, so you kind of go with it, and you mimic not only his voice, his emotions, his fermatas, his accelerandos. And you sing beautifully. People like you because, well, you know how to sing. Okay, you know legato, you have technique and everything. But everybody says, oh, this is Corelli, this is another Corelli. And this is a compliment for you. Because Corelli is your god, or Caruso is your god, or whatever. Kraus is your god. Nikolai Geda is your god. You see, before we take those gods from the heaven, we will never learn how to be ourselves. This is a big problem, because this problem is not on the level of the student. This problem, I find, in today's modern singing is a disease. Everybody is copying something. If pop music, okay, I don't mind. Pop music was never a creative music. It was meant to be McDonald's of music, you know, and pop music is therefore it's pop because everybody can sing, everybody without thinking, everybody can move their shake. Popular music. I'm not against the popular music. Popular music has it's like I'm not against McDonald's. Once in a while I get McDonald's when I'm too hungry, I want to eat very fast food. But it doesn't mean it's art. And today's understanding of art as entertainment is wrong. And that's why the whole culture moves towards even opera becomes superficial. If you look at the art as entertainment, then you're on a wrong way, dude. You are in a wrong way, because a real art, let me say, it doesn't mean that art doesn't have entertaining qualities. It does. All the art does. Tragedy or comedy or anything, especially comedy. But it doesn't mean that art is entertainment, which is a purely American Hollywoodish look at the art. And you know, if you look at the Hollywood, you will find the best of the best movies that ever made by Stanley Kubrick, or if you take great European masters, they were never popular. They're popular among elites, but they're not popular among general population. Therefore, let's say some crazy blockbuster movie makes literally 10,000 times more than the real art. Why? This conversation, why it can take us very far. What I'm saying, the most important thing is what I'm saying is that, coming back to mimicking, to be really talented in this realm of music as opera, of course you have to have the qualities, a good ear, ability to mimic, but not only that. You have to realize that mimicking is always secondary. We mimic because we don't have any experience. And we mimic because we don't know it from the source. If you were an established musician who can read the score and play the piano at the same time, what do you think? Are you gonna be a better interpreter than the guy who learns his operas just from listening YouTube operas, I mean published, or CDs or DVDs, looking superficially at the score, just basically watching the words without understanding where the harmony stands, where the rhythm stands, where the words stands, what is editorial issues, you know, all these things. If you don't know this, you're a simply, I'm sorry for that, a slave of the market, a talented slave, I would say. Okay? What it means, talented slave? It means that you have a beautiful voice, beautiful presence, even career, but you have no you of your own interpretation. You cannot even suggest that, let's say, to the director, because he feels right away that you are mimicking someone. And the first problem that you're going to have with this director, with the conductor rather, that conductor, in certain instances, he will ask you, why are you doing this? Let's say, why are you doing this rallentando? Or why are you doing this fermata? Or why is this, you know? And you will have a very disrespectful look at you if you say, oh, because that's great, Corelli did it, you know? Maria Callas or anybody else. This is, trust me, no real good conductor will take this argument, because he will look at you as simply a secondary level artist. So in this case, I don't necessarily mean that it's going to work with every conductor, but you will have a respect if you say, Maestro, I want to do it, and you give the arguments why you want to do it. First of all, the first most important argument, because I like it, Maestro. I like it this way. Of course, Maestro can tell you, who are you to change it? Okay? But that is very seemingly authoritarian question. A real artist should not be asking you this question. A real artist should only ask the question, if that beautiful or not. Who are you? And this is just a wrong, a fallacious argument against you. But trust me, if you say, this is why I want to do it, and you know why you want to do it, if you can give it even an argument, actually, the conductor may hate you for that. He said they don't like much of intellectual vocalists. Too intellectual. At least those who know music better than them, oh, they hate them. So you have to be careful with that. Give them this arrogant point of view. Oh, I know more than you, Maestro, do. But just, you know, just to tell your concept. And you know, the directors are not stupid. They know perfectly when you're mimicking, when you're not mimicking, when something comes from your heart, you know, this and this. I'll give you an interesting argument. You've listened probably to Macduff aria from Macbeth. What is interesting, I found a new approach to this aria, so there is no B flat written in the aria at the end as a culmination. But I found a perfectly Verdian approach. It's just nobody did it before. I took the possibility, I took the bravery of actually singing this aria during the rehearsal. Yes, I was tricky. At the beginning, I sang the way it's written, so there were no questions. Right away, the director liked it and everything, yeah. I sang it come scritto, with less emotions, just to be correct, just to show the maestro that I know what I'm doing. Okay, maestro, this is very important. The first impression, maestros like you, not your liberty, but they like you if you're a good musician. The second rehearsal, I came out with this B flat, which you can hear during the performance. And Maestro came to me and he said, where did you find this cadenza? Did you check out with the book of cadenzas? He was like nervous. It's obviously that he liked it, but it was come scritto in a way. He says, where is this written? You know, I never heard this, anybody sang it. So what? So what? Somebody has to be first. I mean, if you do it beautifully, due to this maestro, he listened a couple of times. You know, he came to me at the third and says, you know, I couldn't find this B flat in a cadenzas book. But didn't care. He let me do it because he eventually liked the way it is. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with taking a certain liberties with cadences. Was normally perfectly okay in Verdi's time. You have to understand that our job can be as boring as anybody else's if you don't be creative. I know it's a hard job to be boring, I would say, but I would say after a couple of years of a career, when you sing this and that, and you're gathering your new repertoire, you're getting more dramatic roles and everything. Of course, you're growing up, unless you're not growing up. You're growing up, you're getting to a certain level. And this level could be a creative level, yes, and this is, everybody is creative, I believe. Creativity lies mostly where you have guts to do something new. Well, what is creative? Creative is initiative. To be creative is to have an initiative, for example. Simple example of creativity, very simple. You go on the street, your neighborhood, and you see there's like something is on the way. The pizza box, let's say, just lying, somebody just throw it away. So you go and you just pass this pizza box because, well, you don't find it's beautiful, it's in your neighborhood, okay? But you're not the guy who's responsible for that. So you just, you pass through and you just complain, what a jerk put this here. And that's the 99% what people would react that way. But somebody will take this pizza box and throw it into the garbage box, okay? There will be, I mean, of course you find, but don't compare this to, but this is the very simple example of having an initiative, where nobody would do it, you do it. And this example, of course, is not the same as example as of having an interpretation with your own way of doing it, original interpretation, but this shows exactly what is creativity. Creativity is having initiatives. In classical music, it's very difficult because it's very structured and you don't have the right to change the score. You don't have the right to make an equal note into a dotted note, but you have the right to use your own cadences. Not anymore, but it's because somebody decided. Toscanini decided. Who cares about Toscanini anymore? I mean, you can use your own cadences. That was in Verdi time, so why should we disrespect Verdi? You can use rallentandos, accelerandos, fermatas, your own way, your rubato. This is where your freedom lies. Of course, some people think there's very little freedom. Yes, and that's why classical music can be an amazingly uplifting and extremely boring. I think that if you have a great musician or a great singer, you can give you goosebumps you will never get from a body massage, Classical music can give you that, but if classical music is very structured, it becomes very boring, it becomes kind of respectful music, but there's no essence. We respect classical music, we respect Beethoven. In that sense, though I disagree with Frank Zappa, but I understand why he hated Mozart so much. Frank Zappa's, sure, he did not hate Mozart deeply in his heart, because he understood that Mozart was a great talent. But what he hates about Mozart is that the whole America is talking only about Mozart. There is no music but Mozart. That is in itself so boring. Who decided that? I would say our elite becomes very simple-minded. Before, I think elite was much more elevated in thought. Today's elite is kind of very close to the mob mentality. Elite today does not care about promoting a real art. Elite today cares about making money. And you will never make money on art. So therefore, they're not even trying to make money on art. They don't try to support art. They're trying, and they're very successful in that sense, they're trying to make money on everything they are involved in. Another question becomes very interesting. Does popularization of opera brought any good to opera? And again, there's no one view about it. And from one hand, it did, okay? So in what sense? I mean, it did, and I find opera is an elite art. You can call it true art, whatever you like to call it. This elite art was always supported by elite minds. Today, elite itself is simple-minded. They don't care about art. They care about money. So they make opera look like it's a Broadway show. And this is very sad. And this is also the reason why you as an artist are neglected. And in a true art like opera, you are just one of the slaves, beautiful slaves, who follow either tradition or the conductor wishes. So you become non-entity in a way. It's just people say, oh, it's a beautiful voice. Yeah, wow, wow, you know. But there is no personality. It's not that you don't have the personality. You're not allowed to have personality. In this sense, opera is very, very, as they say, the theater is like our state. It shows every nuance of the troubles that we have in societies. As I started with what quality in students I value the most. And I will put these three qualities they are very important. Ability to observe, contemplate a lesson, a voice. Second, ability to mimic. I understand why I put this ability also as an important one. And of course, ability to be creative. The first one, ability to observe, to have a good observational mind, is being intelligent. It's so-called the art of listening that very few people know. Well, I mean, you can say, art of listening, that's very, very easy. You just sit and listen. Might be very easy for you if you have this quality, and I think that is one of the talents also, people who are able to listen very carefully and to be immersed in listening of somebody else's. And again, this quality may stay just as this. Without the creativity, this quality is just a very passive quality of observing certain things, nevertheless not making any good out of observing this. You have to be able to mimic, and you have to be able to be creative. How to be observant and how to be creative. To be observant means that you simply meditate to what your teacher shows you without judgment. I already mentioned that. Now the second question, how to be creative. And we talked about this already. You have to take an initiative. And again, it's not because, this is also tricky in a way. Well, some people, they realize intellectually that what they're doing is no original. So intellectually, they will say, okay, I make something that is not like anybody else's work. You just simply take the idea that I will be not like anybody else and put something just for the sake of this idea. You will never find the creativity in doing this, because this is simply an intellect trying to understand something deeper than it. You cannot be creative just because you want to be creative. You just have to be yourself. You have to learn how to be yourself. This is the most difficult thing, because you think you're yourself. And since you think yourself, why should I learn to be myself, which is not myself? I mean, this is kind of, a controversy. How to be creative in general is an irrelevant question. But I'll give you some tips. Creativity is first of all, starts with simple desire to do my own way. Creativity is, first of all, starts with simple desire to do it my own way. Break a pattern. In other words, to be creative is to be alone when nobody yet supports you, and you have guts to express yourself in a way nobody did before you. This is what it is. Have guts to express yourself the way nobody ever did it before you. Of course, general public will not gonna like it, because general public, or the mob, they only digesting whatever they know. It's like you would never go to some Asian restaurant that suspiciously cooks cockroaches, right? You won't go there because you're not ready for this type of open-mindedness. You do something that only you like, and you have guts to express it. Now, the second step, interesting, whatever that encouragement for those who really do this. You might like something, really, but when it's too green, it might not be a really great thing. So you have to have another guts, not only to discover whatever you like, but to develop it to the point that the world will like it, or at least those people who really understand art will like it. And this is another step. So the first step, to do something nobody else ever did it before you. Again, not for the sake of it, but because you want to do it. If you don't have your own desires to change, to do it your own way, that you're very far from being creative yet. Maybe this is not even your field where you can be creative. The creativity, I repeat again, it's the personality that wants to do something he likes and desires, in spite of the fact that the world does not necessarily like it. Okay, this is very simple, simplistic maybe, but the true definition of being creative. You may ask a question, why would I be so creative that nobody likes me? What I'm saying is this is not, again, it's coming from the success point of view. But if you look at the success, the shortest way to success is to mimic, copy, and reproduce. Exactly the pop music does today. Okay, some artist comes with this particular trick, his song becomes popular, right away the other artist takes this trick and they use it mechanically already. So this is what pop music, the digesting thing, is doing. Okay, the pop music, it's again, it's McDonald's of the music, if you say it. What is the biggest obstacle on my way of creativity? Old authoritarian patterns. You, over years, over many years of your life, you liked this particular singer. Your teacher taught you to listen to the singer and to just mimic him, to be his second ego, if you like. You got used to this reproduction of somebody else's personality, and you've completely forgot what do you want in this. I already gave you the example of Corelli. Let's say if you're a favorite of Corelli and and all the jazz. Of course, on a superficial level, like the biggest compliment one can receive is that you're Corelli or you're Caruso. On a very deep level, it shows your inability and lack of creativity. It means that you learned from Corelli and not life. Nobody ever thinks why this or that great performer did it this way and why eventually public liked it. Because it was done from the heart, from his own observation, from his own emotions, knowing his own nature. As Othello, for example, okay, you have to be Othello. There is a certain pattern, there is a written story. You can change the story. Suddenly Othello changes himself and he doesn't kill Desdemona. You have to kill Desdemona, but you have to find it through your own personality. What would happen if you were in this situation? Now you will say, of course I won't kill Desdemona, I will let her go and spit on her, whatever. You're saying this way, but you have to imagine all the circumstances, right? So you're an old guy, 45, but back then it was like 75 today, and she's like 16 years old. All this situation, you have to imagine, would you be jealous if you were 45 and she was 16? And she was, young girl flirting with people. She loved you. Almost you were like God to her. But she liked to flirt. She's 16. She's young people around. And plus you have your good friend Iago. If you put yourself into the situation and try to imagine what character is going to come out, you start to realize that, of course, you take something from the character of Othello, which you have no relation to. But at the same time, as a human being, you have great relations to Othello. You can be jealous, you fell in love. Imagine that somebody you madly in love with is cheating you, or at least you think they're cheating you. Imagine all the situation, and then go through music and text of Boito and Verdi. And then, my friend, you start to understand Verdi from inside. That's where you understand the score, not by buying the urtext. Urtexts are very important because in urtext, at least there is no editorial mistakes. Sometimes singers and even conductors, they conduct incorrectly because they have a wrong score and they get used to this come scritto conducting, so believe the score is correct. And that's why urtext scores are at least correct editorially. And if you ever have a urtext score, you start to understand how tricky it is, editorial things. Sometimes editorial editions, they make mistakes. You can observe in many urtext editions of Giuseppe Verdi's Requiem when he clearly states that that Ricordi, for example, put this accelerando in the wrong place. And you can see that most of the singers sing it the way it was in normal scores, where Verdi said to the editor, it's wrong, you should not put this accelerando here, you should, and by instincts, if you don't look even at that, if you're a good musician, if you have good instincts, you don't even need this sign. You know you can do it from this point. But this is what I'm saying, the come scritto musicians, they are very limited because they totally disconnected themselves from intuition. They believe that what is in scores, everything is there. I also believe there, but only if you can read it. And very few can read the score. Trust me on that, because reading the score needs an intuition. It needs knowing the style and human nature and being a good musician. That's what gives you the right to read the score correctly and the way composer intended. Not the book with some dead notes in it. You know, this is what Richard Strauss was saying. That's the most less interesting things are the notes. And today's mentality in general, you know what, this is what I can make a little unification of the human mind. You know, people, they have tendency to cherish something they don't understand, okay? Those people who are praying on scores, vocal scores, they don't understand it. They don't understand the score. You know, like the Bible. Most of the people who think, oh, this is the Bible is the sacred book, they never read the Bible except for certain passages. You know, I don't trust those people. Musician who has no intuition and who has not developed as intuitive personality along with educated personality has a very little value to me, because I don't even know why he is in music or in that or that. Why should we multiply mediocrity? This was my message. Thank you very much. Until next time.